that. And listen, this is when I wanted to say again, because I'm really keeping the main thing. I really am, because I could go there, but I'm keeping the main thing, is that we are only trying to problem solve for this. And we know that, and it's really too bad that the people who can we get Ms. Brown or somebody come down here? The people who engage with folks who actually are on the ground with issues around rent understand that this is a practical reality that people all across the city deal with all the time around rent. And we're not asking for anything more than what's justifiably due through the relocation. So if it is the case that a person gets the 7,200, we're saying they are still going to need that support as it relates to the difference for their rent. The 7,200 lump sum is because people know that there's a first of the month. The people are giving them a lump sum and they move on, but they're not able to make it after they move on. We just need the relocation cost to help close the gap for people so that they can figure out the difference for themselves. And look, you're gonna know it's not gonna be, it ain't gonna be no cheating because people are gonna tell you how much they pay and how much they make. That's the verification processes Ms. Brown has.
All right, so and talking to Mr. Thread, who's been having discussions with law about relocation costs, which is obviously applicable to what you're talking about. What has been determined with relocation costs? And Corbin, I don't know if you're the right person in the law department. I don't know, okay, Joe, who you've been talking to.
Vice President, I'm sorry to interrupt. The screen has gone down again. Residents are.
All right, hang on.
We'll wait.
Did somebody say it's back up? Up where? Up there? Yes. We're good? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So I don't know who.
I'm sorry, who said yes?
I can.
Yes, our text. See it
Okay.
right there?
Thank you. I'm just waiting for somebody outside the room to say that they can hear. Thank you for that. What's your name?
Andy?
Paul. Let me get a look at Paul. Thank you.
You've seen Paul Harang down here.
I see Paul's name all over the place.
Exactly.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Okay.
We good? We're back, Ms. Ludwina?
They say it's up. They say it's
back
up.
Okay.
And everybody, thank you for your patience with that, because there are lots of people who cannot physically but they are tuned in and they care. So let's go.
Mr. Gregorian, why don't you come on up? Mr. Threat says he's been talking to you about the relocation costs and what you determined with that. Great.
While they're talking, if I can just say this really quickly, one of the keys to this between the 7,200 and the program that we already know exists is the good news is all the residents need is what they need. So whichever meets the need for the resident that we're talking about, whoever that resident might be, and there's just a few of them, that is the answer. So it's not about folks trying to get something more from the city than what they need. Because ain't nobody getting rich off this one way or another. As soon as they get the money, it's going right into somebody else's hands.
Mr. Gregorian?
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So with the relocation expenses, there's a couple of parts to it. There's a, I'll start with the simple part first. There's a number of costs related to the closing and the process that are being covered by the city already that's in the schedule.
Can you come a little closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. There's a schedule that's providing additional costs in addition to the money that we're providing for the purchase price of the home. That's already accounting for a lot of the costs, and that's where that's included. As for the actual moving expenses and that part of the relocation, we've established a CEA with TCA. And part of the reason that we're leaving the moving expenses with the TCA CEA is because we understand that the residents do not have the money to front those costs and move forward and take care of it themselves. So the TCA CEA is providing the moving portion of those relocation expenses. And that's how that portion is being provided already.
We actually understand that one very well, because those have been the conversations that have been had over the last 4 to 6 months about the moving company part, which is the CEA agreement we just talked about. So we're on the same page about that. And correct. So the thing about it is, we just need to make it clear to people once again that you're not even in a position to pick up the phone and call a moving company until you have secured new housing and can maintain the housing. So once again, we're not talking about any kind of situation where residents are asking for something outside of what they need to get into the house and not be put out of the house a month later. That's what we're talking about. So let's revisit the conversation that we had 2 days ago, Andy, where we know that if a resident has to come to the table and verify their income and show that what they pay and get a lease, people are prepared to do that. Renters are prepared to do that if it is the case that that's what's required to secure their home.
Yeah, I think he understands that. And there has been a lot of work done in the past, 24, 48 hours on that piece of making sure that there is some upfront money so that individuals can go and secure a new home.
Well, hold on, just real quick. I'm sorry, Vice President. I want to separate out just for a moment the renters and the owners, because we're going to get to that, the things that apply to both of them. We want to make sure for the renters who could actually start moving now. They're ready to go. Just to be able to say that that part has to be contended with in order for them to just move forward. And we also understand that even like when we get to talking about those other relocation costs, they will be going to the owners if the owner is occupying. We're only talking about the people who are occupying the space.
Go ahead, Corwin.
Okay, so as far as the rental assistance is concerned, as we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, we're trying to iron out the timing as far as making the payment and whether or not the payment can be made without having a signed lease. A law department needs to talk to the finance department to talk about timing issues with issuing a check, because I'm certainly understanding that a landlord wants to know that he has good funds.
Yes.
And in order to sign a lease. So we're especially sensitive to the fact that that's going to need to be a very quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
But the law department cannot respond to the turnaround time. And so we need to get with finance and discuss with them about an actual turnaround on that.
Okay, let me just pause for a second, because Corwin, look, that right there, what you just said, has been one of the most clear, most on point, most direct in alignment with what we're talking about. So I need to say thank you, because I feel like you heard it. So now that's one piece. So just stick with us. We can just get through the rest of the meeting like this. So good. This is progress since Monday. That is actually resolvable. Now let's go a step further. Who in finance has to be spoken to? I know finance knew that there was a part of this conversation somehow connected to this. Who has to be spoken to with finance?
Angela.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Gray, come on.
During this meeting, I've been in contact and emailing back and forth with Tyra Brown. That with Office of Community Development.
Mm-hmm.
That is who would be making the payment.
Okay, you're saying some very important stuff. Paul, where's Paul? Paul, it's buffering again. Okay. Oh, Lord. Okay, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Just give us 1 second. We're gonna.
Apparently, we're back.
And it will all be recorded as usual. just
Yeah.
FYI.
Okay, but. Just give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. These are the people most impacted, so we gotta answer them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's back up for however many minutes. Let's talk. Please, Mr. Threat, you were saying something very important.
No, I mean, during the course of this meeting, I've been in conversations, emails with Ms. Brown, Tyra
Thank you.
Brown with Office of Community Development. She will be handling the execution of payments for the rental assistance. She has funds available. She's telling me 7 to 14 days. But I think since we haven't got the next closing dates, that if I can get the list of residents that need that assistance,
Mhm.
and Ms. Brown can start meeting with them and start working on that right now.
Okay.
Great.
So just one more thing, if you can check with Ms. Brown. So what I'm hearing you say is this is around the logistics pertaining to ensuring that people can get the 7,200 to get the process started for them. As it relates to that, then finance clearly has to be involved in that.
I don't think that's a finance piece. I think it's the
Okay.
Office of Community Development.
Okay. So then, are you then gonna need to transfer funds to them, or are we going back to the funds that had already
I
been?
don't think we
So
need to,
just to speak clearly to that, I was talking to Councilman Moreno, Tyra's using her existing funds for
Mhm.
her existing budget. At some point later, we'll have to reallocate administration council to front that, but we didn't want to go through a ordinance process to be able to make those funds accessible. So she's fronting the money and we'll just have to recoup it later down the path.
Okay, so let me just revisit one more thing, because I want to make sure that this doesn't get lost in the sauce, Mr. Threat. Is that when we went through this process before, originally with the CA agreement that connected to TCA, there was a full understanding that the least amount of red tape for people was a part of this process. And if you can just reiterate and reinforce that with Ms. Brown, because I see again that this component is only going to be with the Office of Housing Development and not involve TCA. And we just want to make sure we have the least amount of back and forth for people. So what's going to have to happen is once people tie up the loose ends on that, to know exactly what has to happen. In terms of communicating who folks are they going to be, is Ms. Brown going to be the point of contact at that point?
I'll get all the information for you tomorrow. I'm emailing her now. So the way it stands right now, we're ready to go with moving expenses. The CEA is executed for that. We've got funds moving to TCA, so they're ready to go. Ms. Brown is going to be responsible for the rental system payments.
Okay, understood.
So I'll put that in writing and get it back to the residents